Hey guys, I'm going to talk about my journey into landing a job with Google in my 20s. I'm now 34. The reason I want to talk about Google is because Google is obviously all the rage. It's a big company. It's a seemingly very difficult company to get into, and they practically run the planet. And I wanted to sort of give you some insights into how I managed, with no qualifications related to the particular job I'm about to talk about with Google, in my 20s. How on earth was I able to do that? And maybe give you some ideas on how to think about things differently. So a lot of the things that a lot of us think are important in our lives perhaps are not as important as we thought they were, and vice versa for things that we think are unimportant. So let's journey back in time to me, age 18. And I had come to a crossroads at that point, and I was thinking about going to university. I knew that I was going to go to university. I didn't really know why I was going to go to university, but there was a little voice, a little societally motivated voice that said, Alex, you've got to be like everyone else. Join the sheep. Go to university. Go to college. Get that degree. Get that piece of paper. I was like, okay, all right, I'll do that. I will be the sheep. I will go off in search of my destiny, and I shall either study art or geography. Those are my two favorite subjects at school. And I realized that art probably wouldn't bring me any security or prospects, because it's art, it's drawing pictures. That can't be good, can it? So I decided to do geography because it was a more seemingly sensible subject and might bring me more opportunities. To be honest, at that point, I didn't have a clue what was going on in my own life, let alone what was going to happen in university. So I just went for the geography degree. I managed to get a place at UCL in London, and I studied volcanoes and dinosaurs and the geopolitics and water in Africa and rainfall in Greenland, environmental remote sensing. It was basically the study of everything in one short 3-year span, in which most of my time was spent in the pub drinking, and the other 2.7% of my time at UCL was spent cramming for exams. I managed to somehow get a 2-1, and I came out of that course thinking, okay, that's awesome, I've done geography. Now what? I could be a farmer, I could be a weatherman on TV, or I could study the Earth from space. I decided to scrap all that, and because I'd been watching and getting rather addicted to property programs like Grand Designs and Property Ladder with Sarah Beanie, thinking to myself it would be pretty cool to renovate properties for cash or build buildings from scratch. That was fascinating to me at the time. I was 21. I thought there was a bit of a link there with the geography, because geography is, the study of, things changing in space, and that's kind of what real estate does, doesn't it? Not to sound too sarcastic here, but so I did real estate. It was a part-time master's degree. I'm going to rewind a little bit to the end of university. So it's pretty much as soon as I left UCL and I was starting to get into this new course, the real estate part-time, I started to get excited about the idea of making passive residual income online. I was spurred into that by books like The 4-Hour Work Week, Scam, joking. Well, it was powerful in that it got me a sense of, wow, this is possible on the internet. I'm able to make money without working on it directly. I can sleep and wake up with new payments in the mail. And so I decided to, because I'd been interested in art and I loved to draw growing up, I decided, okay, what can I do to make passive income? I'm going to start making illustrations. So I taught myself how to use Adobe Illustrator using pirated videos that I got off the web. Sorry, guys. But that's what gets a young, poor student into the game these days. Taught myself Adobe Illustrator, and I was working with the very basic parts of it. I was using about 5% of the software, so using the pen tool, the smooth tool, and the coloring in tool, so not much change from the geography degree. I managed to teach myself illustration, vector illustration, pretty quickly, and started uploading them to a stock photography website called iStock. That was a nice platform for me to start experiencing what it was like to be rejected frequently by the inspectors on the website and continually being told that my work was not up to standard. So I went through lots and lots of rejections, but a few wins here and there. And the work that was let through and the work that was posted on that website did lead to a gradual, organic accrual of more and more sales, of royalty-free sales to various people who wanted to use my illustrations across the web. After a while, I was bringing in enough money to pay the rent my entire rent in an expensive city like London while I was doing this other course and while I was also doing a job working for a property magazine. So things were working, things were starting to trickle in, and the residual income that I was hoping for was becoming real, because I could sleep and people would be buying my illustrations online. And I added, I think after a point, about 350 illustrations, although I had submitted probably 500 or 600 illustrations. And these range from icons to illustrations of monkeys sitting on elephants to illustrations of people holding up their watch, or businessmen running, or all kinds of random stuff that people were using. And of course, some products were more successful than others. But it taught me very rapidly how to gauge the market and get a sense of what people were demanding commercially. It gave me a very quick feedback mechanism whereby I could see what was working, what wasn't working, what was being rejected. So I was very, very quickly developing a style. And I was very fortunate looking back. And that's how I would say everyone who wants to get into a creative field or something involving some skill to be learnt rapidly in a commercial context, it's so important to have continual, rapid, consistent feedback, whether negative or positive, so you know which route is the best route for you. So I developed a portfolio of illustration pretty quickly. I had my stuff online. I started getting clients here and there, sniffing about. I got a job. I think one of my first jobs was with the Singapore Business Times newspaper, and I created some illustrations about blogging and YouTube and stuff like that. This is back in 2008 or 9, 2007. So I was working for a property magazine, finishing off my studies and realizing that shit, I could make money from illustration here. Maybe I will just banish all of that real estate stuff and all of the hopes I had for property development. It was the credit crunch, the recession after all. The real estate market was pretty flat. So I decided to just screw it all, and without feeling particularly ready, but having that extra buoyancy and sense of being able to get client work, having won a few projects here and there, I decided to leap into freelance illustration. So this is moving from not knowing my arse from my elbow at the age of 18, going into geography and then real estate, two completely unrelated subjects, two degrees that I probably didn't even need to take unless my only goals in life were getting horrendously blind drunk. But the illustration obviously was completely self-taught. It was self-taught fairly quickly. It was mostly taught through the bashes and the struggles and the triumphs of being in the industry. This is why I recommend for anyone who's got children or anyone who's thinking about doing stuff in the world, stop studying for it and go out, do the bare minimum and go out and, you know, get in the real world and face reality. So reality taught me a lot about the illustration industry. I did all kinds of other stuff that I won't go into in this video, like starting a blog and helping other people with their marketing as illustrators and creatives, and teaching a lot of people about the business side of stuff that I had been picking up. But I want to get to the Google thing. So it was basically a case of client after client with lots of ups and downs. I had lots of periods of total frustrating famine with no jobs coming in, and then other times where 3 buses would all come at once and I'd get 3 jobs and be manically working away at 3 jobs at the same time kind of deal. I had agents, but none of them were really getting me any work, and most of my work was coming through iStock Photo and freelancing websites like Elance and freelancer.com. Me just sort of keeping in touch with old clients and potential new clients and sending out thousands of emails to people and stuff, just sort of getting active in the networking aspect of it, although was never totally perfect with it. I was getting jobs with companies like Craft and Popular Mechanics magazine, Wired magazine, Saatchi & Saatchi, Mars, the BBC, people like that. And this is all just coming out of my own, the stuff that I was creating out of my own wacky little brain, you know, just funny little pictures of cities and monkeys and elephants and jungles and funny pyramids and old historical illustrations and maps and things like that. And you can see all my work on alexmathers.net. Make sure you sign up to my newsletter when you get there so you can keep in touch with all the other stuff that I'm sharing. But yeah, it was just a case of doing what I really enjoyed to do, but with a very clear sense of what worked and what didn't work in the industry, and knowing what was fashionable. I think the fashion word is very can bring a lot of cringe to people, especially in the illustration world, because people don't want to have to follow trends and follow fashion. But you look back over people who were successful in illustration, in commercial illustration, tended to have been pretty acutely aware of what kinds of things companies liked. And companies are not very, for the most part, experimental or risk-taking. So they tend to go for stuff that's fresh and trendy, and stuff that you'll tend to see in other places as well. So my work was certainly not completely innovative. I copied and learned and emulated a lot of stuff that I was seeing on iStock. People like Simonox and Russell Tate and lots of other illustrators that I was seeing on that community was really helpful for me. I mean, I didn't copy them flat out. I sort of emulated and then put it through my own filter and started to develop my own style after a time. So job after job, as I said, it was a very roller coaster type of work. Freelancing is not for everyone, but as I always say, freelancing is probably one of the more secure jobs anyone can take on, because if you're working for an employer, they can let you go at any time. You have no control over that situation. Whereas if you have multiple clients you can work with, even if you're not very good at bringing in clients all the time consistently, you're in a much more strong position, because if you were to lose one client, guess what? You just go out and get another one. If you face the pain of losing a client, yes, you're going to face pain, but you're going to strengthen as a result of that experience. So you're going to get these little tiny, these small hits that build you up. It's like the muscles in the gym receiving little tears. I think the freelancing lifestyle is very good, a good way of strengthening you mentally, psychologically, physically. So that was a good experience, and obviously worked with lots of companies. And then eventually because I was able to work anywhere in the world as a freelancer, because I just had to take my laptop and a tablet with me, and I was free to live anywhere. I was living in Tokyo in 2012, and that was around the time that I started getting into a conversation with a guy that was working at Microsoft Bing. You'll know who you are if you're watching this. And we just sort of had a back and forth, like I was doing with lots of other people on social media. I was pretty active on there, and I'm not recommending everyone gets completely obsessed with social media. That's just one way of communication. But social media was a nice way to interact with people and share art and say, what are you up to now? I really like your last piece. And he was making these cool GIFs, and I was just sort of asking him questions, and we just formed this very loose friendship online. And he ended up moving to Google, and because we'd built up this warm rapport several months preceding his move to Google, it was very easy to ask him to drop someone a line in that company who might be interested in using my illustrations or using an illustrator. And of course, he very graciously told his boss, which luckily for me was the head of Google+. He was the Google+ main designer for that social network that sadly hasn't seen the light of day right now, but it was just burgeoning at the time. And they were looking for an illustrator. I got on Google Hangouts from Tokyo with the Mountain View team, the Google+ team. I was speaking to the guy who had actually designed the interface that we were using on Google Hangouts. He was actually the designer of Hangouts, so that was pretty exciting. But it just goes to show, and I got the job, which was great, and ended up being asked if I could fly out to the Mountain View offices and live and work with them on a contractual basis. Unfortunately, that was not possible because of the visa situation, so I ended up doing it remotely, which suited me fine because I could eat sushi to my heart's content in Tokyo and still do the work and still have fun making fun illustrations for Google and working with a really fun team there. That was a really nice experience, and I just wanted to show you guys that anything's possible, really. I mean, don't worry too much about what you were studying in the past. It doesn't necessarily need to lead to a very closely aligned career. These experiences at UCL and learning about real estate have still, created connections for me and created new ways of thinking about things and learning how to do dissertations, and all these things have come in useful in my life. So it hasn't been a complete throwaway, but it just goes to show that university by no means is necessary, and there's everything you need to know and learn is online. Make sure that you follow my YouTube channel, for example, for stuff you might want to know about career and productivity and creativity. All that stuff, it's all free. I'm just sharing it with you guys based on my own experiences, so it's even more realistic than something that's been thrown together in some big dusty old book that's been written by someone who's had no experience. And I think universities are pretty much a joke these days. The people who go in there tend to come out stupider than when they went in. So depends on the course, it depends on, I think STEM subjects and things like that do require a degree in many cases, and if you're studying to be a rocket scientist, then perhaps yes. But for the most part, everything you need is out there on the web. It just requires a little bit of a concoction in the beaker of career development, which is being productive and prolific. So just being committed to creating a lot of stuff and getting as much feedback about it as you can, and just having fun in creating a massive portfolio of work. That's what I did with the illustrations. I got lots of feedback about it. I illustrated, as I said, 500, 600 individual pieces of illustrations before I was 25, between the age of 22, 25. So lots of work at that time, and combine that with a healthy optimism and plenty of energy, and getting your hands on as much material online that you can learn from other people who've had the experiences that you're looking for. Talk to mentors, talk to people that have already done things, and talk to people, make friendships online, offline, talk to mentors, invite people out for lunch, get talking, get out of obscurity. People who don't succeed sit in the dark in their rooms twiddling their thumbs and other things, and don't connect with people that you need to connect with. So it doesn't need to be that you are a social butterfly and that you sort of flit between people drinking cocktails at bars and things. You can be someone who just sits on an email bloody platform and sends out emails all day. There's power in that as well. Talk to people, connect with the right kinds of people. Just be aware of who is more significant in your particular world of work than other people are. Gain an unfair advantage by following up and just keeping in touch with people and not allowing relationships to fizzle out. Make sure that you are aware of what things are in demand. So think about your market, think about what people are needing, think about trends, and think about how that will define your process and your work. If you want to turn your nose up at that, enter at your own risk. Of course, you can innovate and be completely fresh, but that's going to be harder to crack. Just keep positive and have belief in yourself, as they all say. Ask me any questions about this as you like. I will respond to you in the comments. I will also possibly do other videos on certain aspects of what I've talked about if you want them. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button if you're interested in hearing more about Alex Mathers, and do like this if you liked it. Yeah, just stay in touch and I'll see you in the next video.